My name is Jason Gonzalez. I'm an apprentice laborer with Royal Electric. I'm a Period 5 apprentice. I've been with Royal for about a year and 7 months. I have about 1,000 more hours for my apprenticeship program. So I've been in the trade since I was 17 actually. I'm 25 right now. I started off doing non-union residential work, like homes, remodeling homes, stuff like that. And I got into the union trades through one of my cousins. He actually helped me get in. He got me sponsored. Royal sponsored me into the labor union. So that's kind of how I started here, and it just took off ever since. We're out at LAX on runway 24 left. We're working on a punch list stuff and trying to finish up the phase. We're on the last stretch. This is the last month of the project. And this is on a closure, so we go in at 11 o'clock and prep for the shift, and the closure is not till 12:30. So once it's 12:30, we hit the ground running. We get out there and we start working because that runway has to be open by 6. So we need to be done and out of there by 5:30. So that small amount of time, we're hustling and we're trying to get it all done. Right now, we're probably doing about 20 lights a night, and we're trying to improve those numbers. We're trying to bump those numbers up just so we could finish up on time. Right now we're down by Taxiway Whiskey, or Victor, I believe we're done, and we're starting working on Whiskey. So we have Sierra and Uniform done, so we're almost there. We're finishing up. I have like a lot of discipline with my body, so I could transition from night to day pretty easy. Like yesterday we had off because we didn't get the closure, so I was up yesterday, and I'm able to transition into nights. Some people do, honestly, I've noticed a lot of people do have trouble working night and day, but honestly, for me, it's not a problem. I just need to eat and get my rest, and I'm pretty good. But yeah, that's kind of how it is, since, we're working on the airfield, and sometimes, they can't, especially like a airport like LAX, we can't close. We need to do work on the runway. We can't close that runway during the day, so during the night when there's less flights going out, we usually close it and we get some work done that we need to do. And so for me, the task that I really show interest in is setting light cans, the base cans for the runway. They don't seem like much when everything's said and done because it just looks like it's the light, but it's pretty. Those cans have to be spot on. So I take a lot of pride into that, because if those cans are a big responsibility, for me they're fairly easy, but they have to be spot on. Like one little thing wrong and it could throw off the whole can, and then you have to chip it out, and it's a big process. So taking pride in that it makes me feel good, knowing I was able to do that successfully and it came out good. So I like doing that, but there's a whole wide spectrum of work with Royal. Like there's setting manholes and signs, concrete, forming, and it's a whole wide spectrum of work. So it's never really a dull day at Royal. We do a lot of different things. So that's one of the things I also really like about Royal. Like we're not doing like one thing every single time. We get to learn everything and master everything. That's why I have a lot of respect for the guys that have been here for a long time, because most of them like mastered all of that, and it's a lot to master. Like I'm barely learning some of the things, and I look at myself hopefully in the future and I can master all that as well. So there's definitely a lot of guys that I've learned from out here. There's just so too many to name. Royal has a lot of people that have been here for many years, and I like it because back when I did residential work, there was a lot of people weren't willing to teach you how to do things, like different skills, different tricks of the trade. And here at Royal, they'll teach you. Sometimes they'll see you struggling and they'll come and teach you an easier way to do it, and they're more willing to teach the new things that we're doing. So I really like that. And as for the classroom and the on the job, it's pretty different. In the classroom, sometimes they'll teach you one thing, and then you go on the job and you're doing another thing. And as a laborer, they teach you the scope of work that you would be doing as a laborer. So sometimes you'll learn how to lay asphalt, how to lay pipe, concrete, and I mean airfield work it's definitely different. It's not something you really learn in the classroom. You have to get out here and do it. As that's for the electrical and the labor side. They're just different. You don't really get to learn that in the classroom. The older guys taught me a lot, like Julio Gutierrez. He taught me how to set base cans, and that's a big thing to learn here at Royal. Juan Aguirre has taught me a lot of stuff. Juan Franco. Uh, there's a big list of guys. I can't think of them at the top of my head, but yeah, there's a lot of guys that they're willing to teach you. That's one of the things that I really like about Royal and the cultures. They're not they don't hold back on that. Like they want to see you succeed. They want to see you because like they like to say we're the future of the company. We're the future of Royal because we're the younger generation. And as for the laborers, we need 4,000 work hours and 304 school hours. So as of now, this Saturday actually, I'm taking my last class. It's a CPR class. That's my last class, and I'll be done with my 304 hours of school, and I still need 4,000 hours. So that to become a journeyman, you need those both of those hours. So our apprenticeship goes by hours. So you need to fulfill a certain amount of hours to level up or upgrade, they call it, to a different period. So you start off as period 1 and you hit a certain amount of work hours and school hours, and then you'll get an upgrade, and then you get a pay raise, and until you get we have 6 periods, so until you get to period 6, and then you journey out. That process usually takes about 2 years to 2.5 years. Honestly, if I had to go back and do it again, I would definitely join the union right away. I wish I would have done that straight out of high school. That would have been honestly better than working non-union. It just the benefits and the pay. It's just better, and the hours we get, the overtime, all that type of stuff that you get to experience with the union. You really don't see that with residential work, and it's most of the time it's a little less safe. And it's kind of ironic because when I first started with Royal, I wasn't accustomed to all the safety stuff, like wearing my safety glasses, my gloves and stuff like that, hearing protection when I'm using like the jackhammer or the chop saw, anything like that. I wasn't accustomed to that because before it was just just get the job done. That was kind of a little setback, like having to put on your glasses, your gloves. But over time, it kind of also going to school in the union, they teach you a lot about safety. You get a lot of classes about stuff I honestly never knew about, like silica, asbestos, and stuff like that. And just over time, working with Royal, having a present safety personnel there, and that kind of just enabled me to start wearing my safety gear and just kind of start being more safe, like a safer worker. And over time, I started liking it. I started kind of digging the safety culture, they call it. Oh yeah, I became a safety leader. Yeah, I started inputting on safety observations, and it kind of becomes addicting. It opens your eyes a little bit more. You start watching out for more safety things you want to see. I always would try to do a negative and a positive one. I mean, it's work. There's always both going on. Especially the negatives. And sometimes it's us, sometimes it's not. But that's just kind of how it goes when you're working at a high pace. And there's a lot of stuff going on, different moving parts, different companies and different trades working all together. Usually it's the little small ones, those are the most common ones, like, a truck here in LAX, Perlawa, and you truck 450 and up, you need wheel chock. So if you have a dually or anything, you need the truck needs to be chalked. Because just in case the air brakes fail and the truck rolls onto an active taxiway, it could cause a big accident or anything like that. So usually you see stuff like that, or maybe the compressor hose is not properly secured with a cotter pin and a whip check, or just PPE stuff. Those are the most common, honestly, PPE stuff. Sometimes you do see big ones, like it's happened to me actually, where we're working in the small area that we're working on right now in Phase 6 for Sierra, taxiway Sierra. Sometimes there's a little small area where the planes turn and you actually get hit with a little bit of jet blast, and I think it's happened about like twice, and we made observations on that. But sometimes to me that's a big one, because that could cause like serious damage to us and property right there. I would like to run a job. I could see that as my future, maybe running a job, start off from there and see where that takes me. And maybe who knows, maybe I don't like it, or I do like it, I end up in the office. I have a lot of, like you said, I have a lot of options, and I have my mind open to anything. And I really like working with Royal. I hope after my apprenticeship I could stay here and continue with my career. And I was pretty nervous, like when I first started, like I didn't really know what was going on. This was my first time, like when I got to Royal and I got to to the big jobs that they're doing on the airfield. I was never around like big excavators or big backhoes, you know. So it was pretty intimidating. But honestly, I really would recommend it to anyone. It's not as bad as they think it is, and there's more benefits than there is anything else. Like, you know, the pay is great, and you get to work with your hands. You learn different skills and different trades, and you could apply some of that stuff in life. You know, you learn how to use power tools. You learn, like, if you're someone who just fresh out of high school and you've never worked in the trades, or you've never, or even if you say you're a little older but you've never worked with your hands or anything, it gives you a good opportunity to learn how to work with your hands and learn different things. You know, a lot of problem solving, troubleshooting, and I feel like those are good life skills as well. You could apply all that stuff to your life and, you know, be successful. I really like that about the trades.